Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder live show on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcasting network in the world. Thank you so much for making that possible. You everydayers make this show go. We appreciate you listening every Monday through Friday and after every single game, and these Locked On Thunder live shows, plus a new show with a former Thunder player you will not want to miss, launching later this month. But we're here as always Monday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Time with Derek Parker, OKC Dream Team. You can find both of us over there. You can find both of us at thunderonsi.com. And you can find Derek with his lovely YouTube channel, Derek-Parker, covering the NBA draft. Derek, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. We've had a few days to recuperate, some road games. We got some home games coming up. I'll see you out at the Blue tomorrow. Going to be a fun week.
It'll be a very fun week. And honestly, the Thunder just need to survive this back-to-back because they've played the most games in the NBA. They've had this very condensed schedule. They're clearly fatigued. They're clearly shorthanded, which is compounding that fatigue. But if they can just get through this back-to-back, they get a couple off days before going to Charlotte, which is another off day. Then they get an off day on Sunday. Then they play New Orleans. And like the schedule really softens for them if they can just get through this back-to-back, Derek. And we already have coaches in the chat commenting it up. Coach Dennis believes that the top 8 rotation claim will be an understatement for Ajay Mitchell. That was our bold prediction preseason. He's living up to the hype there. And whenever you look through, Dennis also mentioned he just found out that Shai eats an apple 30 minutes before the game every game. And then Coach Nick asked Red or Green. I've actually talked to Shai about this tradition, and he told me that he eats Macintosh apples. So there's your scoop for the day on Locked On Thunder Live for anyone who cares what kind of apple that Shai is eating before each and every game. But when you look at this week, Derek, what was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is that the Thunder are just so much better than the bottom tier of the NBA. And it shouldn't be like some massive, groundbreaking, earth-shattering revelation. But it is nice to see, as we touched on last week, that the Thunder just take care of business against these bad teams. Sure, there were some bumps in the road. Like the Grizzlies game wasn't perfect. Things weren't always going their way, but they're so clearly the best roster in basketball right now. They've taken care of business time and time again, save for the one loss to Portland. So I just think they're so much better than that bottom tier, and I think that's how good teams should be. I think to get to the postseason, to get to the point you want to be in the postseason, which is the number 1 seed and be in the best position to return to the finals, you're going to have to beat these bad teams. You can't play with your food. You can't play down to the competition. So it's been nice to see the Thunder take care of business against some of the lower tiered NBA teams.
And along those same lines, I'll go to my number 2 takeaway because it fits in with your number 1 so seamlessly. Along those same lines was I was thinking about SGA. And I was thinking about his MVP candidacy for this upcoming, MVP race that will start to heat up as we grow in sample size of this season. He's played in a league high 11 games, all 11 starts, obviously, but he's averaged 34.8 minutes per game. He's averaging 33 points, a block, a steal, 6 assists, 5 rebounds a night, and just 1.7 turnovers, which is tied for his career low with his season from way back as a rookie with the Clippers, where his usage rate was obviously nowhere close to the usage rate of today. And his limited turnovers with maximum efficiency, where he's shooting 52% from the floor, 34% from 3 now, and then at the free throw line, of course, 90% at the charity stripe. His maximized efficiency, his impact on winning, his ability to continue to make this team hum, where they'd have every excuse in the book to not sit here at 10-1 right now. Like they're 10-1 and they've had to battle through schedule adversity. They've had to battle through injury adversity. And yet Shai has been the constant steadying force. I do believe that like if he can continue to dazzle this week, and if he somehow pulls out a 2-0 stretch in this Warriors-Lakers back-to-back, like all of a sudden there's your storyline. Because what's the MVP campaigns all about? It's all about narratives, it's all about storylines, and it's all about stats. And he's going to have the opportunity here to put up big numbers against 2 good teams that people are watching. And if he comes out of this and they're somehow 12-1, and you really take a step back and observe what he's had to go through, he has that MVP narrative to go back-to-back.
100%. You touched on all the ways that he's been effective Obviously, the scoring is like the key element of Shai's game, but it has been more absurd in this stretch of games than it has maybe ever been, say for that like 40-point run last season. 33.2 points per game in 34 minutes played. He sat a ton of fourth quarters. He is just in an absurd rhythm right now. And it feels like he can be even better. Like there's times where he's pulling a few, maybe errant, questionable step back threes in a row. They're not falling. So I think there's still ways for him to improve. My second takeaway is Clippers question mark. The Thunder blasted the Clippers this week, 126-107. And it's coupled by the fact that the Thunder own their pick. The Clippers now stand at 3-6 on the season, which is not the start many thought they could have. A lot of people, us included, I think, picked them to be a top 5, top 4 seed in the West. I think I had them somewhere in that range. They're off to a bad start. The Thunder own their pick. We've already seen tankathon simulations. You sickos out there are already simming Darren Peterson to the Thunder, which is crazy. But I just wonder, like, is this going to be what the Clippers are? And we'll get into it because we have a segment later. But the Clippers have not had a promising start to the season. And that does directly affect the Thunder, given the draft picks, given the just like the overall Western Conference and how good it is and how the postseason matchups could play out. It's just very notable right now that the Clippers are struggling. They're not playing up to standards, and the Thunder have been a part of that. Obviously, getting down early, but then coming back in that huge come from behind win.
Yeah, I agree that the Clippers are worth monitoring. They've lost 4 in a row. They've been swept by the Suns in that baseball-style series. They currently sit with the seventh best NBA draft lottery odds right now. And, realistically, we'll talk about this coming up with our standings predictions of risers and fallers. But realistically, I think that the hope for the Thunder in the sense of the draft pick would be that it plays out just like it did in 2022, where they get to the play-in, perhaps they win the first play-in game and then lose the second play-in game, and then you have the lottery balls either bounce in your favor or not, but you are assured to have a lottery pick at that point from the Clippers. So that's where I see it going. I don't see it going to like the extremes of being the 7th worst team in the NBA record-wise, but I do now have the door more open for this to be a lottery pick than I did prior to. Because I just thought that their offseason was really good. I thought that they had enough depth, even though they were older, to be able to compete. But man, you're seeing it. And the only question that you and I had about the Clippers was about the Norman Powell-Bradley Beal exchange. It was like Norman Powell was a borderline all-star for this team. He was a weapon for this team offensively whenever Kawhi sat. And now that Kawhi has an ankle injury, and now that you're looking at the way that Bradley Beal started his season and not started his season in some ways of like not playing, now you're just questioning this 10 times over, especially with what Norman Powell's doing in Miami. So it's like, I don't know what to think about the Clippers long-term, other than I do believe that there's now a chance that they hand the Thunder a lottery pick. But I want to talk about the Thunder, and I want to talk about Chet Holmgren. His mid-range game has been exceptional this season. 63% overall in the mid-range, 86% on long mid-range jumpers, which is in the 92nd percentile, 55% on short mid-range jumpers, and then at the rim, he's shooting 77%, truly becoming a 3-level scorer on top of that three-point shot, which, his three-point shot perhaps is in some games, like you look at last night against Memphis. It's not falling against Memphis at a 1-for-4 clip to the expectancy rate that you would hope it would. However, you're still seeing Memphis respect him from 3, and it's allowing him to get mismatches. And I think that he's doing a much better job contacting guards on these slip screens and on these ghost screens, to where now he can seal off guys like Ja Morant in the post and hit these mid-range jumpers. So you like to see him work inside out to start this season, and you hope that that's a trend that can continue for him, because it just gives him so many more avenues to score.
100%. I think Chet has been absolutely phenomenal in the middle of the floor, as you touched on, both scoring with those crystal clear mid-range jumpers, creating for others, whether it's cutters like Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso. Obviously, the high-low stuff to Hartenstein has been awesome. So I think when we talk about the Chet Holmgren offensive leap, like we never went into like real true specifics, but it could feel like it was always there with the way that he could get better at so much stuff. You're seeing now like the very tangible ways that this can happen. Like the 3-point shooting is still there. He's obviously still a threat around the rim with his 7'1" height and the long arms and the touch that he has. Now you're seeing him fold in that mid-range game, and you're seeing the numbers blossom to 20 plus points per game and a few added assists. And he's starting to round out kind of the all-star case that I think a lot of people thought he could make in the preseason. My last takeaway, I should say, is that Ajay Mitchell leveled out. Last week we talked about it. He had an awesome start to the year, was really, really good statistically. And then he kind of tapered off for a handful of games there. He shot around 40% from the field, missed some easy bunnies. Like, he wasn't playing bad. He was still doing things like playmaking, playing defense, garnering steals, but his scoring had tapered off a little bit. I was just curious to see whether that would come back to what it was earlier in the season, or if it would taper off and he would just be a little bit less than what we thought. Over the last week, he has averaged 17 points on 50, 57, 94 splits, 4.8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2.8 steals per game. I think it is safe to say that this Ajay Mitchell is here to stay. I don't know if it's going to be those numbers specifically, but some version of what we've seen from Ajay Mitchell in this 11-game stint is here to stay. And I think any version of that player is so awesome for the Thunder, because he gives that secondary and sometimes even primary playmaking. He's a walking paint touch. Good defensively. We've touched on it. We think he can be a plus defensively. Mark Daignault thinks he can be a plus defensively. I think he's been that in getting the 1.8 steals alone. One of the team leaders in steals this season, which is absurd to say on this team. So Ajay Mitchell's been awesome. Absolutely blew me away this week in terms of expectations. I thought it would be somewhere in the middle. It was well above that. His averages on the season are impeccable. Obviously, as people in the comments have touched on, a top 8 rotation player, if not well more than that.
Yeah, AJ's been awesome for this team. And I do think that the takeaway of Jay Will is still important. It is a shooting slump that has lingered for the first few games of this season. Now we have a growing sample size here from OKC, where you can start to monitor it more closely. You can start to get concerned about it if you want to 11 games into the year. However, I do believe that with Jay Will, it's good that he's missing consistently long, and you'd hope that would breed an easier adjustment for him. But I think that you've got to resist the temptation of like your outrage with Jay Will. Like, he needs to keep playing, and he needs to keep shooting, and he can't become hesitant. He can't be someone who you're playing Brandon Carlson over him. Like, you just need to keep playing him, and he has to do a better job than he did against Memphis of not letting the offensive issues turn into defensive struggles, because prior to Memphis, he's been a much improved defender and a much more improved activity guy on that end of the floor, putting bodies on guys at the rim, trying to box out and find ways to fight for rebounds for himself and others. He didn't do that as well against Memphis after he started out 0 for 5 and was 0 for 5 the whole game. So you want to see that more from him. He hesitated a bit more in his jump shot the last couple of games. Against Sacramento, you saw him get a little bit flustered and like go to the no dip 3 for no reason. And it's like, Jay Will works on these no dip 3s. Pre-game, I watch him all the time, him and Grant Gibbs. They're working on the no dip 3. The no dip 3 for me, it's a good weapon to have. It gets shots off quicker. But for a guy like Jay Will, who defenses are not reacting to, and even when he shoots 40% from 3 last year, defenses are not reacting to, you don't really need to get your shot off that quickly. Just shoot your shot, nail them, and then get back to normalcy from 3. And the growing complaints about him not driving to me are so misguided. Like, Derek, what is he supposed to do? He cannot drive. He especially cannot drive when the defenses are playing 5 feet off of him and like waiting on him to put the ball on the deck. It's just not there for him. What's there for him is he needs to continue to be a confident shooter, and he needs to continue to be a playmaker for this team in the high post and utilize his passing as a way to keep himself useful on the offensive end while his shot's not falling. So ultimately, the takeaway for Jay Will for me is, while it is bad right now, you got to keep shooting.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, what else are you really supposed to do? Like, obviously he's not I don't even know what the numbers are right now. Don't want to speak out of turn. His 3-point percentage currently is not pulled up on my screen, but it's not good. Obviously that's not going to hold. Like, he is not a 7% 3-point shooter. Like, things are going to swing back around. We haven't seen him be this streaky yet, but if you stick with it, the shots are going to start to fall. It is not as if he's completely forgotten how to shoot the basketball. And outside of that, like, what is the alternative? Playing Ousmane Dieng more minutes, reaching into Daniel Carlson, who has been good, but does not have the experience that Jay Will has. Probably doesn't have the shooting touch that Jay Will has, despite Carlson being able to hit those threes. So I think you got to stick with it. He'll figure it out. And when he does, then the driving will come back around because people will close out. They'll start respecting the three again. So yeah, I like that takeaway, and I'm out of takeaways. So if you got more, fire away.
As always, we want to get the chat involved. Coach Curtis says, my biggest takeaway this week is iHeart's offensive output the last 2 games. Love his and Chet's interior passing to one another. I agree. I think that Isaiah Hartenstein has taken a step forward in the sense of his assertiveness whenever he gets paint touches and just going into scoring mode versus being a more deferential player and a more player who's deferring to other guys. So I like that from iHeart, and he obviously had a career night against Sacramento, so that boosts everything. But that Sacramento career night translated to early confidence where he scored the first couple buckets for OKC against Memphis. That's a real weapon for them. And Mark has talked about this since the start of training camp of iHeart being someone who presents them a different level of screener and roller than they've ever had before under Mark. And that's true. And so like they've really tapped into that in a big way to start this season. That's a great takeaway for sure. Coach David also says, I smell a Ousmane Dieng trade coming soon, maybe during the offseason before the draft. I mean, well, first of all, he'd be a free agent at that point, restricted free agent, so it can't really happen before the draft. But yeah, I mean, Us is not like a long-term guy for me on this roster. The thing would be if they just prefer to let his contract expire, if they prefer to try to squeeze out a top 50 protected first-round pick. I mean, a top 50 protected second-round pick, I should say. Excuse me. So, it is what it is with Us. Like, it's just been not great for him. And I think that he could really use a change of scenery to see if maybe he can catch on somewhere else.
I will say, I think a lot of people in the preseason especially thought this would happen, given how good Brooks Barnhizer was playing. Obviously, that has tapered off a little bit. So I don't know if they're like absolutely chomping at the bit to get another body in. But yeah, obviously it does make sense probably that there will be a parting at some point, be it in the coming months, a year from now. It seems like it's on the horizon.
Yeah, and I think that with Us, this would only come to be if they can figure out a way to get a thing for him and only give up Us. So for example, like if his value tanks to the degrees where you need to do like a second round pick swap, for me, because nobody's beating down that door, like let's be honest, Brooks Barnhizer, who I love, and Brendan Carlson, who's a good little player on a 2-way contract, they're not going to make a significant impact on this team in the playoffs unless something goes horribly wrong. So it's like you're not really chomping at the bit, as you said, to convert them to a standard contract. Chris Youngblood's not even a thought in this category, to be converted to a standard contract. So it's like, if you can trade him and not attach anything to him, do it and just open up a roster spot and see what you want to do in the future and hold on to that roster spot for either a buyout candidate or for one of your 2-way guys to get converted and open up a 2-way spot for somebody else with the blue who's playing well at that time. But don't do it just to do it, so to say. Like, don't attach something to Us to get off of him, which I don't think you're going to have to do. I think that you're going to be able to trade Us for a second-round pick.
We got comments. Yeah, this is the exact one I wanted to see. This is true. You have liquidated the Us stock 4 weeks in a row now. You're getting teed up if you do it again.
I'm not. I'm out of it. I have 0 stock left. I'm just, I'm just
holding. Me and the chat, me and Dennis and Nick, we're all keeping you honest because you have no more. If it blossoms back up, you do not make money. You do not pass go. You do not collect $200. So you're out. That's fine. We're all out, but you cannot be any more out than this moment.
That's right. I'm just responding to Coach David. I'm just making sure that we have a feel for the land. And so you're winning over the chat. Coach Nick says, thank you, Mr. Parker. That's his dad's name. He's Derek, but thank you, Mr. Parker. OKC can realistically be 19-3 by the end of November. This is an interesting question. They already have 1 loss, so they can only lose 2 more times. And here's their schedule to end November. So obviously, this Golden State Lakers back-to-back is a big deal. Then they play Charlotte, then they play New Orleans, then they play Sacramento, then they play Utah, then they play Portland, and then they play Minnesota, Phoenix, and Portland again. I mean, Derek, if they skate by this back-to-back with just 1 more loss, do you think that they can handle a stretch of Charlotte, New Orleans, Sacramento, Utah, Portland, Minnesota, Phoenix, Portland, with only getting another loss in there to have them at 3 total?
It's not out of the question. I mean, theoretically, this is a worse pace than they're on right now. Like, so in theory, they should be, 30-3. But I do think so far, I have it in my notes. We'll touch on it later. They've played the 29th best strength of schedule. So they've played some pretty easy teams. And I believe that's adjusted. I would not expect them to be that. I think that they do skate by this Golden State, LA back-to-back. But Portland twice, Minnesota once. They're not the easiest games of all time. Like, they're of course not playing like top 5 teams in the NBA, but I do expect some losses sprinkled in. So I think it's going to be really, really close. I wouldn't pick like firmly either direction.
I tell you what, Coach Brandon, 19-3 by the end of November. Let's revisit this on Thursday's live stream, because if they go 2-0 in this back-to-back somehow, then I'm with you. I think that they're going to go 19-3 by the end of November.
Yeah.
But if they stumble in this back-to-back, it gives them such little room for error that I don't know that that's going to be possible. And this is how I know that Coach Nixon every day, because he puts in the chat, Charlotte. That's how I describe playing Charlotte on Saturday on Monday's show, because I just cannot stress enough how much easier life gets on OKC once they make it through this back-to-back. And it's going to be taxing on them. I don't know how they're going to do it and what their record will be in this back-to-back, but you get through Golden State and LA. You have 2 straight off days. Then you play Charlotte. Then you have another off day and you play New Orleans. And then you come back home and play Sacramento again. And then you are on the road for Utah after an off day. And then after another off day, you play at home for a week against Portland, Minnesota, and Phoenix. Only one good team in that stretch. So after you get past Charlotte, you really have 2 teams to worry about. And that's Portland and Minnesota. But Portland will not have the schedule advantage that they had in Portland, or the home court advantage that they had in Portland to kind of propel them. So yeah, I mean, if you can get through this back-to-back, like you're sitting kind of pretty.
Don't sleep on the Charlotte Hornets. I'll say that. We can get into it later. I've got thoughts, but I think you're glossing over one of the snarkiest teams in the NBA right now.
You still have Charlotte stock.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have a bet. I can't sell it all.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not looking too pretty for you. Coming up, we're gonna do our standings watch. And so right now, early season, there are some surprise teams who sit atop these standings on both sides of the aisle. There are some shocking teams who have tumbled. Where's it going to level off at? Like where do we think teams are going to climb? Where do we think teams are going to fall? That's coming up. But we have to get to our weekly superlatives, but we start those weekly superlatives by going backward. So we do this every single week where we predict the best game, the most boring game, the best storyline, the nerdiest basketball watch of the week, the most interesting opponent, our record prediction, and what do we think we'll be talking about come this time next week, and where we were right, where we were wrong for last week. We both had the 8-0 start correct. That's great. We both had the 3-1 record correct. That's great. We both had Portland as the toughest game, and the Blazers as the fun team to watch. I think that both those things have came true. As like the nerdy basketball thing to watch was Portland for us, and the toughest team and the toughest game was Portland for us, and we both got that right because the Thunder lost that game. I said that the storyline coming out of this week would be, how does OKC keep getting away with this? And if you've been looking around the Memphis subreddits and the Chris Vernon show and everything else, yeah, that's the feeling around Oklahoma City. Is like, how do they keep doing this while they're being shorthanded and with all this adversity that they've gone through? And then Derek, you called Sacramento the most boring game on the schedule. You are absolutely right. That was a boring Friday night game. We were only wrong on 2 different occasions. I thought that Memphis would be the most boring game of the stretch, because you're going from the West Coast over to Memphis, and it's a long travel. It's an early tip Sunday. You could get some sleepy basketball, but instead, like, you saw the Thunder pull off a comeback, and it was a lot of fun at the end for Oklahoma City. So I don't think that was the most boring game. I think that Sacramento was the most boring game of this stretch. And then we were technically wrong by saying that Kawhi would be the most interesting opponent, but he didn't even play. So it's like, do we get a kind of out there, a little asterisk there because he didn't play at all? But I don't know. It is interesting.
I said most interesting player was Ja Morant. That is a hand up my bad. He was uninteresting. Apparently things have been solved. Like, I of course said this from like a storylines perspective. Last week was like all the Ja talk. I was not saying that he was going to be like the best player in this stretch, but even that didn't come true. There was no drama. There was no real nice play on his end, I would say, maybe a quarter of it. So certainly wrong on that end. Most interesting player was not Ja Morant.
Yeah, we both got the most interesting player wrong. It was Cedric Howard in that game. Coach Nick, Charlotte stock better than Oos stock. I think that you and I both agree with that, Derek. I mean, you obviously do. You're all in on the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
You're all in on the Buzz City crew. I love that for you. They're a team that plays basketball. Dennis says it looks like the Spurs will have home court advantage in the first round. We'll get to that. We'll get to that coming up whenever we do our rising and falls of the standings coming up. But let's go now to our weekly preview, and we're going to give you what to watch for this week coming up. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network. Your teams every day. Derek, this week, the Thunder play Golden State at home, Lakers at home on a back-to-back, couple off days, and then they play Charlotte. So the three-game week here for Oklahoma City. What's the best game on the board?
I do have the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not sure if you're there with me, but the Lakers were the 2 seed mere days ago. They've been playing some real nice ball with obviously Luka Doncic. Austin Reeves has been good. Ayton has looked slightly more inspired than usual. And then they've got some other fun pieces mingling around there. So I do think the Lakers will be the best game. The Warriors are good, and I am interested in that game. And I think the Thunder will obviously take it as seriously as any other, but they've really tapered off. There's been some effort concerns. I don't think their defense is absolutely stellar. So I myself have the Lakers as the best game of the week.
I like that. And I think that it's only between 2 games where it's like either the Warriors or the Lakers. The Charlotte game is not interesting at all. The reason that I went with Golden State is because Steph's back. By all accounts, Steph will be back. And it's always fun to watch Steph. And because it's a back-to-back, me personally, I would play Chet against the Lakers. I would sit Chet against Golden State if you must sit him on one of the back-to-backs. However, it feels like they're going to play Chet against Golden State. We'll see the injury report coming out. So barring the injury report, just with what I'm envisioning the Thunder being able to play their guys for the most part. They're obviously still hurt, but Golden State getting Steph back puts them over the edge to be the best game on the front end of a back-to-back. Second nights of a back-to-back can get wonky in general, but especially if you see Chet not play. So I'm going to go with the Warriors, but I think that this is going to be a fine line to walk. Just we'll know as soon as 5:00 this evening which game will be better, just based upon the injury report for both teams. But the most boring game is unanimous. It's the Charlotte Hornets. Like, I mean, you're a Hornets guy, but are you really just getting juiced up to go watch the Hornets play on Saturday?
Listen, I genuinely think it's fun to watch the Hornets. They're one of my favorite league pass teams. In terms of like implications for the Thunder and their season, there's none in playing Charlotte. Not only are they in the East, they have absolutely no chance of making it to the Thunder's tier anytime soon. Not that anyone really does, but I mean, the Lakers and Warriors with some continuity, chemistry, and a little bit of magic could challenge in the West, get up to those seeds that could potentially contend with the Thunder within the first, second round of the playoffs. The Hornets are so far out of this realm completely that, it's absolutely the most boring game. As fun as I think they are as a squad, I think their strengths lie far away from being able to beat this Thunder team. So, yeah, I'm right there with you.
So we have the same most boring game, but what's the best storyline in a single game? And I think that the back-to-back obviously lends itself to plenty to pick from.
Yeah, I have Shai versus Luka as my biggest storyline. I think these are two right now of the top 3 to 4 MVP candidates. I think these are two players that have been somewhat attached in recent years in terms of the draft class, the first round or the second round playoff series a few years ago, the way that they operate, the fact that they're two of the best guards in the NBA. I think there's just like a lot of links here. And I think that obviously Luka's playing some of his best basketball ever right now in the purple and gold. I think Shai is also playing some of his best basketball ever in terms of the entirety of the season. So I'm curious to see how it shakes out. I think there will be a little bit of the head-to-head that they've had over the last couple of years of who's better. And of course, that's not going to be answered by one game, but that's going to be in everyone's mind as they watch this. So I right now have Shai versus Luka. We talk about it all the time. The MVP award is 90% narrative driven. And I think this will be a small stepping stone in that narrative of who won that first matchup of the season. Did Luka go nuclear in Oklahoma City for 50 points? Did Shai have a step back three over Luka to end the game to seal it? So I just think there's so many different ways it could go. And that's the storyline I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah, I like this storyline for all the reasons that you mentioned, for the sake of being different and just having one of us be right and one of us be wrong, and making more fun for Monday's who's right and who's wrong segment. I'm going to go Steph versus Shai. Of just like, these are two guys who I think could have an explosive game scoring the basketball tomorrow night. And it can be just loads of fun watching them answer one another's buckets down the floor. So I'm going to go Shai versus Steph, especially because like there's like some hints of animosity between the two, because the Warriors got in their feelings, and especially their fan base got in their feelings over Shai's Instagram post last year. Do you remember that, Derek? Where it's like Shai posted his typical montage of like, oh, he puts a poem in the caption and people eat it up and love it because it's fun. But in that highlight reel just happened to be Shai scoring over Steph, because that's what happened in the game that he's talking about on his Instagram post. And like Warrior fans thought that, I guess Warriors fans didn't understand that he does this every game, no matter what, and so they thought that he was like targeting Steph in these stories or whatever. And like,
do it every game. Are you talking like
he does it for every like big game that he has?
Okay,
and he dropped like what, 45 points or something in that game. Like he does it for every game of that caliber on Instagram. And so Steph fans were like, oh, he's targeting Steph. And then like Draymond had a pod about it or something. It was just like it was a little blip on the radar last year. So I think that there is some growing animosity between these two fan bases from all their history together. I think that's going to be a really fun game. And I'm very curious, now that the Thunder have the better team, now that the Thunder have won a championship, now that Shai is who Shai is, do Warrior fans, quote unquote fans, do they still take over the Paycom Center? Or are all those Warrior fans from Oklahoma somehow, are they now Thunder fans? I'm very curious what that ratio looks like in the Paycom Center tomorrow. This is your opportunity, though, Derek. I'm not going to lead the jury, so I'm just going to ask you point blank. Who's your nerdy basketball watch of the week?
It is, in contradiction with my most boring game, the Charlotte Hornets. Listen, guys, we joke around a lot about the Charlotte Hornets because I have, for some reason, attached my wagon to them and all these different things. I mean, they're not a great basketball team. They have been, I don't want to say it, but the black eye of the league, or at least maybe not the black eye, but they've been a maiming in the league for the last handful of years. I do want to say, though, they are going to be a better basketball team than they were last year. They are on the rise, finally, after having one of the better 2025 draft classes, and they're genuinely a fun watch. Con Knipple is awesome. He has been absolutely hooping lately. With both LaMelo and Brandon Miller out, he is effectively the number one scoring option, and he's taken it on really, really well. He's such a fun watch in terms of playing off 2 feet, high feel. He can shoot the crap out of the basketball. And then these other rookies that they've drafted, Ryan Kalkbrenner, longtime Creighton big. He's been awesome both on offense and defense. Sion James is a really, really high impact winning wing. Liam McNeely's getting there. I think he'll have a decent NBA career. So the Hornets, they are the Hornets, but they're on an upward trajectory. They really, really are a fun league pass team for better or worse. And I think the nerdy basketball fan in me is going to really like watching that game this week.
I'm with you in a way. I'm just nerding out over watching Con Knipple.
Yeah.
So that's my pick. Con Knipple. Most interesting opposing player for me, it's Steph. Like, Steph is just, from the time he steps on the court to warm up, he's must see. Like, what he can do in warmups is impeccable. If you're heading to the game on Tuesday, get there early and just watch Steph go through his pregame warmups and like the shots that he can hit from, of course, beyond the arc, but also just like these high arcing floaters that he goes to. It's just a lot of fun to watch Steph play. And the reason I don't go Luka is because you're going to get to see Luka for a long time. Like, Steph, who knows how much longer you get to see Steph. And of course, he only comes to the Paycom Center at most twice a year. So it's like, hey, watch Steph. And I'm very interested in him.
That's a good point on Steph. He is certainly, I would say, nearing the twilight or at the twilight of his career. I got to go Luka. He is playing some of the best basketball we've seen in a long time, genuinely. Like, he is absolutely in a groove. scoring at just an unbelievable rate, playmaking at an unbelievable rate, willing the Lakers to win alongside, as I touched on, former Oklahoma Sooner Austin Reeves. So I got to go Luka. I would contradict myself otherwise because I did pick best storyline, Shai versus Luka.
I like that. Now, what's your record prediction? It's going to be tough. I mean, there's a back-to-back involved and then the Charlotte Hornets. So it's like you have one win baked in, but how many more do they get?
I'm going 3-0. I'm truly have not been impressed with the Warriors lately. They've been pretty iffy on both sides of the ball. They got off to a really, really hot start. I picked them 4th in the West. I thought it could happen. I've not liked what I've seen in the last handful of games. So I think they beat the Warriors. I think the Lakers, that's a tough one. That's a close one. I think they dispatch LA, and then the Hornets, as we've talked about, I think is a little bit of a shoe-in win. We could see, I mean, maybe the Hornets come out. They can't miss. It happens in the NBA. Anything can happen, but I'm picking 3-0.
I'm picking 2-1.
Wow.
And it leads me into my storyline at the end of the week. I think that the one loss is going to be the Lakers on the second night of a back-to-back, where the short-handed Thunder just give way to the Lakers and they lose that game. And you're going to have to sit with and deal with the fact that on the end of the week national pods out there, the Hoop Collective and all the other national pods, the Zach Lowe show and everything else, they're going to be saying like, oh, are the Lakers like going to be a threat to OKC? Like, look what they did on Wednesday, without any of the context of the game Wednesday, where the Thunder are shorthanded and it's the second night of a back-to-back. And they're going to gloss over those like asterisks and then just say the Lakers are going to be, a threat to OKC. I think it's going to be similar to the reaction to the baseball series that they played back in April to end last season, or back in the end of March to end last season, where the Lakers came out and trounced OKC on Sunday. And then the next game, they went and lost a competitive one where Luka got ejected. And like people were like, hey, the Lakers could give OKC a run. And I think that you're going to see that same storyline play out. So the start of next week, we're going to be dispelling some of that on Monday. So that's my storyline of the week. That's my record prediction. What's your storyline to end the week?
Yeah, my storyline, I guess we're going 3-0. I guess that the Thunder are going 3-0. My all-time, or my prediction would be that we're talking about the all-time wins record at the end of next week. They're 10-1 right now. If they win 3 games this week over some pretty decent opponents, I mean, Warriors and Lakers wins would objectively be massive. That would put them at 13-1. That would put them at above 74 win pace. And I'm not saying that I think we should be talking about this, but I think if the Thunder beat the Warriors, beat the Lakers, get to 13-1, I think there will be a lot more conversations about can they go and win that all-time record, especially doing it over the Warriors, who obviously have said it. So again, I'm not saying it should be talked about, but I think that could be on the docket if they get to another undefeated week.
Yeah, and to your point, if they go 3-0 while being shorthanded, while playing this back-to-back, they're going to have to sit with this for a couple of days. And while the Thunder will not want this to be like a storyline, and I truly believe the Thunder are not going to fight to get to this record. I mean, like, it's a legitimate fight to break the all-time wins record, and it's something that is honestly a little bit deterrent to your ultimate goal. Like, honestly, you have to exert so much in the regular season to get to this goal that it detracts from trying to win a championship. I think that the Thunder are not going to care themselves with trying to get to these lofty win totals. However, if they do go 3-0, Derek, and have 3 off days in there to start talking about it and to start thinking about it, and then they play the New Orleans Pelicans, and you have another Tuesday off day after you've now gone 4-0 and you've continued to climb that list. Like, yeah, this is going to be a storyline. If you're correct on 3-0, you're absolutely correct. These are just like mine's coupled together. Yours are coupled together too. You can either be wrong or right on both of them, because it's for sure happening if they go 3-0 with New Orleans looking down at them on Monday night.
And I totally agree with you. I don't think the organization or the team cares, especially at this point in the season. It's so early. It's such a tough thing to do. I don't think they care in the slightest, but we're projecting more like media narrative storylines here than anything. And I think ultimately that is what they'll be talking about if they go 3-0.
Now let's talk about our NBA segment of the day. And I wanted to get to a look over at the standings. And so right now on the standings, you have some interesting options. The Pistons are 8-2, top of the East. The Cavs are 2, the Knicks are 3, but then the Bulls are 4, the Heat are 5, the Bucks are 6, And you see the Hawks and the Magic, who were the NBA's darlings, off-season wise, including ours. The Hawks are 9, and the Magic are 11, not even in the play-in tournament. And then you look over at the West, and it's like the spunky Spurs are 2, and then the Denver Nuggets are 3, which is kind of expected. The Lakers are 4, the Rockets down at 5. All these are separated, of course, by minimal games. One loss really separates all these teams from top to bottom. But the Minnesota is 6, Portland is at 7. Golden State's down at 8. Phoenix is at 9. Memphis is still at 10. And then the Clippers are at 12. And then the Mavericks are all the way down to 3 and 7. The second worst team in the NBA, ahead of only the New Orleans Pelicans. So there's a lot of shakeup right now. And then, for example, you thought the Grizzlies would be the second worst team in basketball. They're at number 10. Like, you thought they'd be the second worst team in the West, and they're at 10. And like the Suns are still in the play-in tournament. So I wanted to ask you, having gotten to watch this small sample size, I want to get your risers and fallers. Like, who risers being like who you think that you believe in, who you think is going to continue to ascend. Fallers are like, okay, for example, Miami. Like, this is a fun little Miami team. They're pushing the pace offensively. They're playing faster than Eric Spoelstra's ever played, but they're not going to be a top 5 seed in the East. So who are your risers and fallers of the standings?
My first one, I've already touched on them on this live stream. It's the Clippers. Things are not going well in LA right now. Again, 3 and 6. They just got blown out by the Thunder. You touched on the Phoenix Suns woes. It's also just not going to hold. Like, they've got enough talent that they're going to be better than they are now. They are not going to be the 4th Western Conference team. They're number 12 right now. I would expect them to rise. I'm not saying they're going to go be what we thought they were, where they're going to go be a top 4 seed in the West and go be spunky and win a couple playoff series or anything like that, but they're not going to finish at number 12 in the West. And for everyone doing the tankathon sims of these top 3 picks, I hate to burst your bubble. This Clippers team is just too talented to be that. It's too early in the season. It has not been a good start to the season, but some major things would have to shake up in LA for them to continue to be this bad.
I agree. I think that they're going to get to the play-in at minimum, and so like they're not going to be this bad. I'm going to go with the Suns on that same note. They fall out of the play-in. I mean, like they're competing, they're playing hard, but they're not going to be a play-in team for me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I picked the Suns to be pretty awful, I think. So I think, see, that's a great point to mine. Like, this is going to be a team that the Clippers absolutely pass. I know we've seen like the head-to-head already, but there's just no way this holds over the course of a season. Like, we're not even we're barely an 8th into it, like a little over. Like, there's so much basketball to be played. And to your earlier point, calling me out on my Grizzlies take, there's absolutely time for them to get worse, for them to sell off pieces like I said they would and dip even further down. They're not one of my official fallers, but 4 and 7.
There's time.
There's easy way to get to selling some pieces at 4 and 7.
Especially if Ja can't find his Julie. There could be some opportunities. I'm going to go with the Pistons fall out of the 1 seed. Now, they don't plummet. They stumble. I don't think that they're the 1 seed, but I think that I still believe that the Cavs and Knicks are going to be 1 and 2. And the Pistons will be top 6, and I'm leaning toward them being risers than where I had them. I'm picking them like as a home court advantage team still, but I don't think that they're going to be the best team in the East.
They weren't an official faller for me, but I mean, it's such an easy call. Like, love this Pistons team. Absolutely love the pieces that they have accrued over there. I think Cade Cunningham should be an MVP candidate, whatever that is for you. But number 1 is pretty rich. And I know that they have fresh legs. They play with a lot of defensive intensity. They play the right way. They have good coaching. They're well coached. They're a good basketball team. Are they number 1 in the East? I don't think so either. Their differential is less good than a few other teams. So I too would have the Pistons below number 1. My next team, in similar fashion, is the Chicago Bulls. We gave them their flowers last week. They got off to an awesome undefeated start in the East. They play fast. Josh Giddey's been an animal. But I don't expect a top 4 seed to hold. I think their point differential, I just point at 1.3 sandwiched between the Knicks, who 8.7, and then the Heat, who have also been pretty good, we touched on. I just don't think the Bulls are going to hold. Are they going to make the postseason? Can they still have a really good season relative to what Chicago fans want? Absolutely. Are they going to hold as a top 4 seed in this Eastern Conference? I don't think so. I think some of the recent losses have shown that may be the case.
Yeah, and along those same lines, I'm going to go with Miami falling to the play-in. They're not going to be a top 6 team in the East. As much as the East is bad, as much as Miami's reinvented offense is fun for now, long season, they're going to be back in the play-in.
Yeah, I agree. We have Nick Flowers in the comment. Jalen Duren stock, ooze stock. That's like saying,
Hey, what are we talking about? Like, this is we can't overdo the joke, Coach Nick. Yeah, everyone's stock is higher than Oos, and that's also like saying like I'd rather have an iPhone than a Motorola Razr right now. Like, of course you would.
This is like saying chocolate cake is better than black licorice.
Yeah,
black licorice it's out of here. We love
it's gone. We've left it in the 60s.
My last one, and I could talk about plenty more because I think these standings are going to shake up a lot. Like I think there's so much more movement to be had. Obviously, we touched on it. We're 10% into the season. I have the Magic, and I have them as a climber in the same breadth as the Clippers, just having too much talent not to get better. I feel the same way about the Magic. They've played a lot of really close games. They are 4-6 and the current number 11 seed in the East. There's been some post-game comments that things aren't necessarily great. I don't like their offensive process through 10 games in this NBA, but they're just too talented to be worse than the Celtics, the Raptors, the Heat, even the Bucks. I mean, they are a better basketball team. They have better basketball players. They will eventually lean into the offense that makes this work. I think they will refine their defensive intensity. So, and to Nick's point, I think Desmond Bane absolutely will get better. He has not had a great start. He has not made that trade look necessarily good for Orlando, but I think they will be better. And I do think they still make the postseason pretty easily.
I had them on my list as well for all the reasons that you said. So I'm going to go over to the Houston Rockets, which isn't like a hot take. Again, like the West is within games of each other. And so like them climbing from 5th to 2 for me is not as big of a deal as it sounds because it's one game. But I do believe they're still going to be the 2 seed. I believe that's going to be OKC, Houston, Denver, 1, 2, and 3. So that bumps San Antonio down, but I would not consider them like fallers. I just consider them as like bumping down from 2. I think that San Antonio is a good shot to be a home court advantage team, given the padding that they've given themselves to start this season. But I still believe into the Houston Rockets.
I might have San Antonio as a faller, but it would not be much. I don't think they probably get below 3 in my mind. And I think if anyone takes 2, I think it would be the Nuggets. So I think I may disagree with you here.
Wow. So you have the Spurs as like a lock for home court then.
I think so. Yeah. I think they've shown enough to me internal development wise in the early part of this season that they are a legitimate basketball team capable of winning games handedly over bad teams, beating other good teams seldomly. Victor Wembanyama has been a mathematical anomaly on both ends of the court. He's phenomenal. Obviously, he tapered off from the first game. That's whatever. We knew he would. But yeah, I think the Spurs have fresh legs. I think they are fired up about what they could be in this Western Conference. And I think they absolutely could and will go be a top 3 seed.
Now, Derek, who's your technical foul of the week?
It's me for letting this go off every single week. I didn't bring a technical foul. Totally forgot about our segment. This goes off at 3 p.m. Every single day. I always forget. Always forget that it's going to go off during our live stream. I'll let you in on some DP lore. This is my dog's medicine alarm. Goes off at 3 p.m. every single day. Tech foul to me for letting that happen. Every single week. It has happened every single week we do the live. So hand up my bad. I am my own technical foul. Incredible timing there.
I'm giving my technical foul to Ja Morant. Ja. Brother, my brother in Christ, Ja Morant. You cannot sit there and say that you're fine in the West before you've done anything in this life. You cannot sit there and say you figured out the Thunder after they swept you, and then your first chance against the Thunder, who are down 2 of their best defenders, period, but also 2 of their best point of attack defenders and perimeter defenders in Lou Dort and J-Dub. And yet you go out there and you not only lose to Oklahoma City, you not only blow a 19-point lead to Oklahoma City, which was the largest deficit the Thunder had faced all season long, but you finished the game with 11 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 1 steal on 16% shooting from the floor. 16% shooting on 2 of 7 from 3 as a minus 23 in a game that you got up by 19 points. In a game that you got this to clutch time against OKC, and yet still, it was a 5-point game with 5 minutes left, and yet you still lost by 14. This cannot be how you announce yourself after you spent the whole offseason and the whole Thunder's championship run parading around as if you figured out the Thunder, and as if you just didn't get hurt, all of a sudden you would have tied it up 2-2 and went and beat the Thunder in the first round and stopped them from winning a championship. You cannot talk the talk and then fail to walk the walk again. That's Ja Morant's whole life. He talks the talk as he's fine in the West and he gets bounced. He talks the talk as a superstar. He's an irrelevant player who spends more time in street clothes than he does on the hardwood, and he's not good anymore. He's failed. He's a failed player who continues to write these checks that he cannot cash. They bounce all over the place, and from now on, Mr. I've lost my joy, Mr. I got my last coach fired, I'm going to get this coach fired too. Like, what are you doing, Ja Morant? You cannot have this happen. This was a game where you should have had a statement. This is a game where you should have, had a bounce back to a slow start. And instead, you absolutely failed against a short-handed Thunder team.
That's a technical foul.
I also want to add, just in terms of the game, again, you touched on the 16% shooting, 3 for 18 from the field. Those 3 included 2 3-pointers, which would be 33% of the rest of his total 3-pointers from the season. So even just to get to 3 for 18, 16%, he had to hit 33% of his total 3-pointers for the entire season to get there. Bad game. He fouled 5 times, had 3 turnovers. Not great.
Not great at all. Just a dreadful game from Ja Morant. This is just, it's just been a dreadful career for Ja Morant. After a start that had him ascending and had him talking about being the face of the league and had him being a legitimate all-star, having him become the first player in Grizzlies history to reach superstar status, however fleeting that status was, to have it crash down like this is honestly sad. And it's obviously self-driven. Like it's self-induced pain for Ja Morant. And it just really sucks. And I mean, the frustration foul on Chet yesterday kind of embodied a frustrating career for Ja Morant to this point. And I hope that he can get back to what he once was, but he's not the uber athlete at the rim anymore. And he's not, a top scorer anymore. And he's not a superstar. And I don't think he's going to make the all-star team even.
Well, that's something we can touch on. It's been a narrative these past few weeks. If you're another team in need of a point guard, the Toronto Raptors, the Houston Rockets, do you look at a Ja Morant trade? It sounds like from your perspective, no, and I don't disagree with that. But I mean, these teams are desperate for playmaking, for scoring juice. Do you think a change of scenery helps a Houston maybe get over the hump? Like right now they're 5. We picked them to be really, really good, but it's obvious they do have a half-court gap at lead guard. Like, do you take the risk? Do you take the risk if you're Toronto, who is a pretty middling team, but could potentially go and buy at the trade deadline?
It all comes down to the price, honestly. I'm not paying superstar prices for a guy who's not a superstar. And if you're Memphis, how do you justify trading him for pennies on the dollar right now? And the thing that would give me pause as an outside organization is, Memphis has given him the world. They've given him the world of like, you get to dictate everything that we do here. You get your coaches fired. You get to conduct yourself however you want to in the press conferences. You get to badmouth the organization with, and you get to do all this stuff. Is he going to conform into a new organization who won't give him that runway, or will he make them miserable as well? And so like, then it becomes a situation where if it got to the point down the road where you were going to trade for Ja Morant, you would have to trade him to a team he'd be happy with. Like you'd have to trade him to one of his shortlist teams like you did with Jimmy Butler last year with Miami. And if I'm that team, I'm looking at all these issues from Ja Morant and how all of them, you can't point the finger to anybody else. You can't explain it away. It's similarly to like a job interview in a sense of like, okay, well, why'd you get fired at this job? Well, you can usually find a scapegoat. There's no scapegoat for Ja Morant. There's just not one. He is his own worst enemy. And he's proven that he wears his emotions on his sleeve for better or worse. He's proven that he'll get you negative headlines, and he's proven that he's an inconsistent at best player. And it's like, so why would I give you the world and the stars if you're Memphis for this Ja Morant guy? And if you're Memphis, why would you accept pennies on the dollar right now when you could just hold on to Ja Morant and hope that something turns around, especially whenever you're trying to negotiate a new lease with the FedEx Forum and you're trying to, keep this team in Memphis and like sell something about Memphis, which doesn't really have anything appealing about it except for Ja Morant right now and Jaren Jackson Jr. and what the potential of them could be. So it just is way too complicated for me to want to take that risk and buy in on Ja Morant because he's never shown you a guy who can be endearing. Like even Jimmy Butler, like for as bad as he was at the end of Miami, he at least could point back to, yeah, but for a long time it was good in Miami. Like for a long time it was good in Miami. For a long time it was good in Minnesota. For a long time it was good in Chicago. And if I'm Golden State, for example, and I only have a couple year window anyway with Steph and with Draymond, if I can just get the 2 or 3 years where Jimmy's happy and it all clicks, I'll do that. With Ja, his lifespan of being happy isn't very long, and his lifespan of avoiding trouble isn't very long before he runs into his next problem. And I would not want to hitch my wagons to Ja Morant right now if I was another team, and unless they were just going to give him away. And at that point, why would they give him away?
I agree. I think even outside of all the things you touched on, logistically, it does not make sense for like a Houston, a Toronto, anyone else to go grab Ja Morant right now. Like he just hasn't proven to be able to lead a team in a while. The NBA also has a surplus of pretty decent point guards. And I know they're not just easily grabbed, but the Thunder have a ton. The Cavs have a couple. Like you can find options. Ty Jerome was floating out there this offseason. Like you can go grab these guys. I think there's other options available that don't come with as much risk. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I think if you're Memphis, you probably just stay pat as well, because like you said, this was your number 2 pick at the NBA draft. This is a guy that you have poured so much into over the last handful of years that to go give him up for, Reed Shepherd and a first would feel pretty empty, even if it is maybe beneficial for the long term.
It would feel very, very empty if you're Memphis. And it just is not in a good spot right now. And the thing is, it's all on Ja. It's all on Ja to figure this out. I don't believe they got the coaching hire right. I don't believe they did a good job of firing Taylor Jenkins either. And so I just think that they've botched that. They're kind of half in and half out front office wise of like, oh, we're going to trade Desmond Bane, which is a signal that we don't believe that this core can work. But we're going to keep around Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja, who are not good enough even with Bane to compete. And now they're on their own and not good enough to compete. And they're just in a weird spot overall. But ultimately, Ja should be able to control what he can control. And what he can control is being a better player than this and not being a distraction and not being a player who presents negative headlines. And everything that Ja does puts them in the limelight for the wrong reason. He was a laughing stock when he was fine in the West and then lost. He's a laughing stock when he says he's figured out the Thunder. And now he's pouting and saying that he does not agree and he does not kind of get on board with what the coaches are doing, and he doesn't have his joy in Memphis. Ja, you're the joy. Like you're the guy who's responsible for the joy. If you're playing better, you yourself and everybody else around you has more joy. Play better.
Yeah. And to spin this to a positive notion, I think Memphis has really, really fun pieces. Cedric Coward has been an absolute revelation this year. And so that, again, just to tie it back into my points I've made for several lives now and earlier in this one, I think they could move forward into a potentially Morantless era of really, really fun basketball where they go get a top pick and they tank this season as unfun as that is, and then move forward with a really, really fun basketball team. So I think the Grizzlies have options. None of them are fun right now, but they've got some fun pieces. They are one of the best drafting teams in the NBA. If they draft a player, there's a really, really good chance that they have hit on someone because they've done this for the last decade. So I think they've got some good decision makers in that organization. They just got to iron things out ahead of a pretty crucial inflection point.
Derek, we'll be back on Thursday. Any parting thoughts with the audience until we go to this back-to-back?
No, I appreciate everyone who hangs out with us on these Monday and Thursdays. Wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't want to be with a better group of people.
Love it. Love it. I'm happy to give Derek some praise. He's joining me tomorrow for a doubleheader day in the Paycom Center, 11 a.m. Blue Squadron, and then we're going to stay in the Paycom Center and await the Thunder Warriors. So it's going to be a fun day. And RIP, the Edmund Fitzgerald, by the way. November 10th is whenever the hatchways caved in, and you know the rest, folks. Sad day, but we made it work with this live stream. Until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another, folks.